On Tuesday, June 28th, MVP Maxfield Von Priestley put out what I consider to be a very important video. As a matter of fact, I talked about it in my own live show later that Tuesday evening. It was about addressing and trying to build dialogues around those who call people toxic fans. Now, what do I mean when I say that? Well, if you're a member of my channel, you don't need me to tell you. But if you're here for the first time and you found me, this is kind of what it is. Going back maybe 5-10 years, certainly back to when Disney acquired Star Wars and fans started to go, hey, this doesn't feel like Star Wars. This is not my Luke Skywalker. This is not my Han Solo. The Force can't do that. The defense that these corporations who decided to change fundamentally the tone, the philosophy, the characters that we knew, it's undeniable that there has been a profound, coordinated push to label and therefore silence people who were fans of these properties as they were, before the insertion of current year politics, before the insertion of ideology, of third wave feminism, of intersectionalism, of identity politics. Now, am I just seeing ghosts? Am I just rage farming? Because that seems to be what they say to a lot of people who are on YouTube. You're just doing it to get clicks. Well, I am trying to get clicks on YouTube, but I'm trying to earn those clicks. And in doing so, I try to present information that is truly what I feel. I try to present things that I truly believe, explain why I believe them, and more importantly, why it is that I don't like what I'm seeing in this entertainment. And it has nothing to do with racism or misogyny or patriarchy or any of those other labels, which again, in my opinion, seek only to silence us. One of the concepts Maxfield Von Priestley talked about was something he learned while serving in the United States military within the Marine Corps, and that was winning the hearts and minds of our adversaries. These people in corporate America have made us their adversaries. We're trying to give them feedback in what would be a customer-proprietor relationship. They don't seem to want to honor what worked before, meaning that if you made a quality product that met standards, that delivered what was promised, the customer was happy. In this case, I think with myself in particular, I as a customer of these properties am not happy. And I am not alone. And as a matter of fact, I think the numbers of those people who are speaking up and rejecting things that may have the label of a franchise, whether it be, again, Star Trek, Doctor Who, and now Tolkien, is growing ever larger. I can tell you from my comment section and the numerous thousands and thousands of views that I get on making videos about Amazon's Rings of Power, again, not to rage farm, just simply to express my own personal frustration and not simply believing what I'm seeing, there are people around the globe who feel that way. Not just cis, normative, heterosexual, Caucasian, blah, blah, blah. You know, we're going with that. Maxfield Von Priestley talking about winning the hearts and minds, which means that when we come to this discussion, and is it really a debate? Because I think what we're trying to do is have a discussion, is for us to be earnest, to come to it with the best of possible intentions and to represent authentically what we think, what we feel, and then present evidence why. One of the most, in my opinion, important things to learn with dealing with people who start calling you names without any basis to silence you is to, number one, keep your cool. You as a person, don't worry about what they're doing. They're going to read, they're going to do everything that they can, in my experience, going back a ways, to provoke you. Because once they get that emotional response, once they've gaslit you to the point where you say something that they can latch onto, essentially they believe they've won this argument. It's very hard not to speak in generalities. I'm doing my best that I can in this video, but what I have seen and what I'm seeing in this fandom is we respond to a product and say, this is not what we want. We then say what we don't like about it. It's this. We see the insertion of ideology. Why did you change the gender of this character? Why did you change the sexuality of this character? Why does this character not act, sound, look, behave, or sometimes even follow the story of the characters that we know? That is a legitimate question. And what do we get in return? Well, we're called toxic. We're called entitled. So how do we have a conversation with people who jump on the bandwagon of blindly labeling and attacking people they don't know, to use the usual de jure insults to minimize us and therefore dehumanize us, delegitimize us, and make us the other? Number one, depersonalize this conversation. The reason why we're unhappy with what's going on and what we love in entertainment is because this was our escape. For a lot of us, these were safe and sacred spaces that we went to not be engaged in what was going on in the world. Because believe it or not, the world was a difficult place to live in before 2022. It certainly was in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. I don't mean to shock anyone, but it was crazy back then too, just in different ways. Now, we can sit here and try and put ourselves in the other person's shoes. In this case, it could be a large trash national corporation using an army of marketing people and shill mouthpiece media to label us and call us names. I don't necessarily think that's the best approach. I don't really want to identify with someone who has dehumanizing tendencies and who results to calling names as if this was a junior high playground. But what we can do is depersonalize us. We can realize that they're really, if you think about it, not attacking us as individuals. They're attacking the fact that what they made is substandard, that what they made has been seen to be not what was promised. Now, they will defend that, they will shame, they will ridicule, they will use people on Twitter who will jump on that and call everybody names and escalate it even farther. So our response has to be simply sticking to what our original assertion was, that these characters do not look, sound, act, behave, or follow a storyline that the majority of people who understand the source material, be it Tolkien, be it Roddenberry's Star Trek universe, be it Doctor Who, any of these things, hell, even He-Man, that the problem is with the story, with the representation, and the quality of product. All of us, especially in a business relationship, because that's what we're having with these corporations. It is a business relationship. This is a transaction. We provide a fee, they provide a good or service. As a provider of a good or service, we suppose, are supposed to be authentic and honest and stand behind the product that they've created. If you went to go get an oil change and somebody actually forgot to put oil in your car and you drove away and your car blew up, it's not your fault for being upset that your car blew up. All of us, I believe, think we have a certain set of rights. Do we? I don't know in 2022. But it comes down to this. All of us deserve respect. At least within Western civilization, I believe that. We all have the right to express our feelings, our opinions, and what it is that we want. We also have the right to say no and to explain why we're saying no. We have the right to get what we paid for. Now, if you subscribe to a streaming service, that can be a kind of complicated conversation. And yet, if someone is telling you that you are buying something that is brand A, and you all know what brand A smells, tastes, feels like, how much is in the box, how it's supposed to work, and you get home and it says brand A on the box, but there's not enough of it, it fails to do what it originally did, it smells off, it doesn't look right, you have every right to speak up about that. Now, that can be laundry detergent, that can be buying a car, and that can certainly be the consumption of entertainment, especially entertainment that is legacy properties. Again, run down the list. Think of something in your head that in the last 5 to 10 years has smelled off to you. We have the right to have different opinions. We have the right to not all agree and to explain why it is that we don't like something, whether it be a judicial decision or the flavor of a soda or what they're doing with our favorite characters from something that we love. And that book could have been written back in the 1930s, or it could have been written 10 years ago. We have the right to say, this is not what I like, and this is why I don't like it. When we've done our job, which is to say to those who are trying to sell us a good or service, and I include entertainment within that, to say, I don't like this, this is why I don't like this. What happens when they don't hear us, when they immediately jump to you're an istophobic, misogynist, racist, guys, I don't have to go through the list. What are we supposed to do? What's happening to us in that situation? Are we being gaslit? Well, we're certainly being shamed. It only works if you allow it to. It's also a form of misdirection. Misdirection and transference allow people who have a manipulative agenda to essentially get you to feel bad for speaking up as an individual. Now, what's fascinating about that is that the more progressive side or the leftist side, not moderate, not conservative, not traditional side, that's their banner, that you get to be an individual. You get to change your pronouns. You can change everything, and everybody has to roll with it. Everyone has to accept what you as an individual have decided to make up in your head about yourself, about the way you look, about what kind of junk you have. Why does it stop here? Why do these same corporations that celebrate all of this diversity and representation, why are they afraid of diversity of thought? And then why do they shame us instead of responding to it? I'm not going to answer that in this video. I want you guys to think about why that is and what that is. So with that transference, with that displacement, I'd say it's a form of bullying. And it's also a form of gaslighting, which means that we are then in the position where we are no longer having an honest conversation. Now, what is the definition of a conversation? It's not just two people talking. It is two people talking and hearing one another. Now, are we being heard when we're labeled? I think they hear us, but I also think that their only solution that we've seen to date is not to engage with us. Because if they engage with us, the volume and weight and depth of our grievance isn't the right word, but our observations and what it is that we find suspect and or incorrect about what they're making or uncovering what their agenda is, in many cases very lazy, is exactly what they don't want to have happen. Where does that leave us? Where does that leave us with Maxfield von Priestley's original assertion that we need to try and win hearts and minds? Well, again, I have an immense amount of respect for Max. I am Ahmad on his Monday show. He comes on my Tuesday show. I love the guy. Gives great hugs. Still owes me a drink. But how do we do that if the other party is being disingenuous and doesn't want to hear us? Are we still obligated to try and win them? Again, this is a business transaction. We are taking something from someone for a fee, whether it is a good or service, in this case, entertainment. And what we find is that what we were promised is not what was delivered. Speaking up about that and about what arguably could be called very significant misrepresentation of what it was that was offered as a good or service, in this case, entertainment, is a fundamental right. When we encounter people who don't want to hear that what they've done is not up to par, is not up to standard, or is simply ham-fisted ideology with a wafer-thin coating of titles and names that are barely recognizable from a movie, a book, a fandom, a game, a sporting event, whatever it might be, we're dealing with counterfeiters. It's counterfeit Tolkien. It's counterfeit Star Wars. It's counterfeit Star Trek. It's counterfeit Doctor Who. Do we really think counterfeiters have any interest in having their fake goods and services as entertainment uncovered? I don't think so. I believe you can only have a genuine conversation with someone who is not just talking at you, but talking with you, and just as importantly, hearing you. I think we're hearing what these corporations are saying. We've heard them over and over and over. Most recently, we've heard what was going on with Kenobi, and before that, it was Halo, and before that, it was Lord of the Rings of Power, which in my opinion is not Tolkien, it is not Lord of the Rings. Now, I've made videos explaining why I feel that way. What has been the response from Amazon? Well, I'm blocked by them on Twitter. I've also been jacked out of fan sites who got to go to England to see the Rings of Power very carefully selected footage for asking questions that were neither inflammatory nor nothing that one would consider out of the ordinary. As a matter of fact, these same types of questions were asked by these fan sites when Peter Jackson began his own work on his own trilogy movies. So what does that tell us? Can we win the hearts and minds of people who have a vested interest in collaborating with people who are creating counterfeit goods and services, charging us the price of admission that one would expect for actual quality, original goods and services? I don't think so. Is there a way that we can win the people on Twitter or social media that jump on the bandwagons of these same things simply because they possess the ideology or the representation du jour? I don't think so. Where does that leave us? We keep saying, buy your physical media, buy DVDs, buy books, buy the original source material. But let's be honest, we all would love for somebody with care, skill, attention, passion, and has earned the right to create or recreate or to interpret so many of these legacy properties that we love. Will we get that in my lifetime? I don't know. What is it going to take to change these things? I think the hearts and the minds that we have to win are those around us who are legacy fans, who are feeling dispirited, lost, sad, and angry because they keep being sold counterfeit goods. I think maybe we can't have a genuine conversation. We can't have an understanding with transnational corporations as well as people who jump on bandwagons, because in my experience, when you are approached by people who don't have your best interests at heart and whose objectives seem to be to dehumanize you, you are the problem because you are not blindly going along with what they want. That's not a conversation. That's not a dialogue. That's dominance. And it's bullying. How do we address this situation? Well, I applaud Max. I am going to continue to approach this with my authenticity, with my true fandom, not misrepresent what I know and don't know about things, call things out and ask questions when I think they're appropriate, not to rage farm, not just for clicks, but because I actually love these properties. I loved Star Wars. I loved Star Trek. I loved Doctor Who. I love Tolkien. No one can ever take those things away from me. It's just interesting that when we express that love and say, stop giving me counterfeit goods that are simply ideology rolled into really terrible writing, that our voices are silenced and we're shamed. I don't know, this is a tough one. Let's see what everybody else thinks about this. You have a good day.
As ever, this is Salty Texas C. I am Corey DB. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen and heard, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. That way you know, and we have things like live streams, which we are going to be doing every Tuesday evening. Take care. I hope you're having a great 2022.